We are live, and let's see if I'll do my lame audio check in a few seconds. Welcome to Friday Fandemonium, everyone. Jacob and I will delight you with our takes on the world of everything going on. So far, so good. Come on. Man, StreamYard is so laggy. There it goes. Like I had to update the page to get StreamYard to load, although I'll wait another minute to get it to load. Like not StreamYard, but like in the browser I'm watching the video in, you know what I mean? Crazy. Anywho, welcome everyone to Friday Fandemonium. No unboxing this week. I actually have to sit down, get some comic book orders set up for the next couple months and see how long that goes and all that. We should have a little golden book, have a couple planned topics, and that's kind of about it. I think, that's on my end. Jacob might have a couple things too. So, how are you doing this week, Jacob? You ready for the show and the weekend? You there, Jacob? He might be having some internet difficulties, so we'll play it by ear. So the first thing to cover is okay. So I'll just start going over some articles early, and some interesting stuff, and we'll see. We'll So I found this interesting. Okay, and I'm betting because she's probably somewhere on the left side of things and she's just kind of been portrayed as a media darling, that she could say this and not basically have the left try to cancel her over it. And she's right about this. Okay, Wednesday star Jenna Ortega slams gender swap spinoffs and push original female-led franchises. I don't like it when it's a spinoff. I don't want to see Jamie Bond, and that's exactly the thing we've been asking for. Make original stuff with women, not So think of 2016's all-female Ghostbusters, a prime example, or more recently in Dune and the Marvels. I'm guessing in Dune they're talking about some of the swaps. So during an interview with MTV, which you can watch below, Ortega was asked if she would be interested in taking on a gender swap version of Edward Scissorhands. Ortega made it clear she prefers the original roles or lazy gender swaps. I think I love that there's more female leads nowadays. I think that's so special, but we should have our own. I don't like it when it's a spinoff. I don't want to see like Jamie Bond, I want to see another badass. She brings up interesting example as there have been rumbling for a female Bond and of course a black Bond for years now, especially since Daniel Craig's iteration of James Bond was killed off. What does this mean for Hollywood? Ortega's comments echo a broader sentiment with Hollywood and beyond. Longtime James Bond producer Barbara Broccoli has considered maintaining that 007 will remain male. Broccoli told the Hollywood Reporter in 2021, I think the next James Bond will be a man because I don't think a woman should play James Bond. I believe making characters for women and not just having women play men's roles. Similarly, Anna de Armas, who starred alongside James Craig in No Time to Die, had expressed her support for keeping Bond a male character. There's no need for a female Bond, de Armas told The Sun. There shouldn't be any need to steal someone else's character. What I would like is the female roles in the Bond films are brought to life in a different way. And we'll skip a bit here. For anyone who's paid attention over the years, there have been several notable examples of badass female characters. 2010 Salt is an example. And that was a pretty good movie, by the way, of anyone who hasn't seen it. It had flaws, but the character played by Angelina Jolie was pretty good. It's just the movie itself had some flaws. It's worth watching. Okay? But there are many others. This is an underrated film. Gina Davis's A Long Kiss Goodnight was very good. Early on, it's a little like the first maybe 10 to 20 minutes of the movie, you might say, but then once it gets into the action and the plotting and all, then it gets really good. Of course, I mentioned Ripley and Sarah Connor, iconic female characters, original female characters who are badass but still feminine, or in Sarah Connor's case, self-destructive in a way that was indicated to be bad. So Jacob has dropped out. He's maybe resetting his internet. That's fine. We'll see. Uh, and there are others. I mean, but I'm happy to. Now the question is Hollywood, now that they know that these woke female modern audience bull crap has failed, are they going to like intent to say, "Oh, we were never for that," and it just is it going to be with that type of thing? We'll have to see. So next up, we have this article. So Ezra Miller, accuser who says to the Flash star grooms his daughter, has dropped the charges. Now, so the question here is: was this basically a media-driven money grab? Jacob might be coming back in. Let's see, you back, Jacob?
Yeah. How do I sound?
Talk for like 30 seconds so I can see if I pick up and interrupt. Just say the alphabet.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z.
No interruptions, so we should be good.
Any better?
It was good. Yeah, like before, every 10 seconds or so, there was like a drop off, and then you just pick up. Like it wouldn't even catch up what you missed. Sometimes it would just drop and then pick up. That's why I said say the output continues because I heard the drop off. So if that can help Wi-Fi.
I restarted my computer, so that might have.
That reset. That's from an IT perspective. That resets the network stack on the local device. This is IT advice for the masses now, right? So you can do this by command line for anyone listening. If you know how to do it, you just do an IP on Windows. It's ipconfig/release and then ipconfig/renew, and that would reset your network stack while you don't have to reboot. On Linux, it's used to be ifconfig, but for some stupid reason, Linux has decided to to eliminate the ifconfig command, and there's another new command you would do this with. So I don't know. I don't. ifconfig would work almost the same way as ipconfig would on Windows. So anyway, if you don't know how to do that, obviously you could just reboot it. I mean, from a power user perspective, it's just faster to manual type it in, type it off, and So I was going over a few articles. I talked about the first one, Jenna Ortega, that's on screen. No, we'll go back to that, Jacob. You have your take on it. So I don't know if you heard this or not. Jenna Ortega slammed the gender swapped roles.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So I basically said that on one hand, it's good that some of these stars are saying this is crap finally, but and then I wondered why she wasn't getting canceled for it. But I was like, she has a bunch of the special slots the left have. She's Latino, she's a woman, blah blah blah.
Right.
But I think she's also one of them. But then I thought at the end, like, what if since now this woke reimagining crap has failed utterly, like we'll talk about Snow White later, right? At the box office. In fact, we'll do that one next. I wonder if that the media is now kind of try to, how, like, for example, I'm trying to think of another good example of this. How like with President Biden, how for 3 years they say, oh, he's mentally fine, nothing wrong. Then they have that one interview, and now they say, oh, we were always telling them that something was wrong. I wonder if they're going to do the same thing with this woke reimagining crap. And say, oh, we were always saying it was bad. We were always saying, to try to gaslight people.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Or act like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we never said that there's nothing wrong and you should be evil for not liking this stuff. But so and then in the article itself, I've mentioned a few good movies, some which are underrated, that have strong female original characters. Like there's a Gina Davis film from, I want to say, the 90s with Samuel L. Jackson. What's called A Long Kiss Goodnight, underrated action movie. Then they mentioned the
Great
movie
movie.
Salt. Yep. They mentioned the movie Salt from like 2010, which was Angelina Jolie. And I said that the movie, she herself as the character was good. The movie itself, it's an okay movie to watch, but you'll know there's flaws in it. Like, you know what I mean? But you'd enjoy her portrayal of the character type of thing. You know? And we could find others. Obviously,
Mhm.
Ripley and Sarah Connor, the original female badasses, as it were. You know. But
Mhm.
to follow up with this, let's take a look at this week's box office. The numbers. Let's go to the numbers.
Well, I think Matt dropped out this time.
Yeah, no, I, my pointing fingers clicked the wrong tab.
Was that you this time?
I was clicking up on the tab. Normally I have the StreamYards tab in the left in a separate browser instance. I keep the StreamYards tab, then each article or window I'm going to open, and I go left to right, right. So I moved the mouse up there and I clicked
No.
the tab, but I was like, oh crap! I clicked like in the active tab. I said we're going to go to the box office, and I meant to go to the box office in that tab, but I did it in the wrong tab. So and it was just brain on this now. Anyway, let's get us. Okay, let's get this. Let's get back to where we were before my middle age mentality ruined it. So now we are in the proper tab, correct? Okay, and to the numbers. Okay, so we'll go to the weekly chart, I guess. There we go. So Deadpool and Wolverine apparently is still running strong. Let's take a look at the totals there. 1.2 billion, almost 1.3. Domestic, international is still exceeding domestic by about 50. Was that about 50 million or so? You know. And then what else we got? Alien Romulus. Let's see, almost 300. Double international. So it's still making some money. You know. Reagan, I think it's Reagan Open this weekend. Yeah, I don't know how to judge that one. I got to read up on if that's going to be insult to Reagan or
Yeah.
I'm not. You know, and
Yeah.
Twisters and Velocity Forge, Blink, Noise, Crow. Yeah, the crap. I thought they said that Snow White film opened up. I guess maybe it's opening right now, so it's not on the chart. You know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so let's go over to the next tab here, and so this is where you dropped out. I think I was just came up with Ezra Miller, and apparently the person who accused Ezra Miller of grooming his daughter has dropped the charges. So now the question is, did he get mass canceled for false charges? If so, I hope he sues people to oblivion. You know, because I'm tired of.
Or did he pay somebody off?
Yeah, well, did he pay someone off? Um, I mean, you never know, but I hope every time that someone is falsely accused of stuff, that they sue the people to oblivion, and charges should be pressed against that person. And if they're
Well,
not, go ahead. Sorry.
it's depending on who you are. You know, if you're Gina Carano, well, I haven't heard anything with her case going on. I don't
Well,
know.
the lawsuit that they're filing is one that you're not going to hear much about. Like they're still going through. They're not even at pretrial motions. Like when you file a civil lawsuit like
Yeah.
that in federal court, the first thing that happens is you start subpoenaing all sorts of data, like to do interviews and data requests and stuff from both sides, and that's what the next year or two is going to be of depositions and
Yeah.
Judge, I need their financial records for this particular day or whatever. I need emails from that particular year for that particular person and stuff. And then after they get all that stuff in on both sides, then the judge will say, okay, we're going to set our first hearing to establish a schedule. Then they'll have pretrial motions These civil lawsuits like that
Yeah,
take a long time.
they got a long way to
Especially,
go. Yeah.
yep, especially at the federal level. But then again,
Yeah.
I'm of the position that if you like this drives me crazy. Okay, this is the reason I love Jeremy from the quartering. By the way, okay, um, when you are in a position that you are abused, so to speak, and I love Crowder for this reason too. Um, and you just complain about it, right? And you don't sue or whatever, um, I
Yeah.
just can't stand you. Like the fact that James Recording has sued multiple people who have like the one dude who assaulted him in public, he sued him and he had like got prosecuted. He's threatened legal action with YouTube, and YouTube keeps backing off on trying to cancel him. Crowder has sued YouTube
Yeah.
multiple times and won basically. So I like if like I'm not in a position, if I get a copyright strike, for example, that's false, unless I find a lawyer who wants to fuck around with YouTube, I can't afford to sue. You know what I mean? But
Yeah. Right. Right.
the only way to protect people like us, and given the scale of things right now, is for the people who can't afford to sue to sue. You know,
Yeah.
and
Right.
like for example, what's going on with Do I have an article for this one? Yeah, here we go. So this issue so Steinberg is trying to set off people to get YouTube to cancel like Neurotic and Geeks and Gamers and all that. And it looks like that the Geeks and Gamers and Neurotics and all have that YouTube has said nothing wrong with their content. We're not going to cancel it. But the next step to me, they had those guys are in a position they need to sue her and sue the people doing it. Okay, to punish them financially.
Right.
And if they don't, I will
Yeah.
respect for all of them.
I mean, that's what they want to do. That's what they want people to do. They want people to just okay. They want to scare people, but when they come up against somebody who says nope, lawsuit.
Yep.
That's
they want to
stops all the nonsense.
They want to make reacting to them in the proper way too painful or annoying, so you won't do it. And which is that's not even the reason I picked this article, by the way. So we'll go back to the Ezra Miller one and finish there, and then we'll get to this one in order. I had entirely different thing to discuss with this article, but it's also relevant to this topic with Ezra Miller. So I hope there's another guy. His name is Odyssey Jones. He's a pro wrestler. He was 2 weeks ago. He was just disappeared from WWE. He was fired apparently. There was some domestic violence charges. Now, if he's guilty, the only time a man should ever hit a woman is if it's self-defense. Otherwise, you keep your hands to yourself, play defensive, And if he hit his wife or whatever, or his kids, he should go to jail. But if that's not true, if this is some random he said, she said, and she lied or whatever, I hope he sues her. I hope he sues the WWE for firing him. Because what should happen, it should be illegal to fire someone if for any reason related to a crime, unless you are convicted of the crime. Like a company, like let's say I get accused of, I don't know, stealing someone's cookies or whatever, right? And I get charged with that in court.
Yeah.
And they should still be required to keep me they could suspend me with or without pay, and then they would have to recoup the pay, for example. But that might be, but I should not lose my job for just an accusation,
No.
And and that needs to be the legal state, because there's too many of these things like the Covington kids, or I don't know if you're into sports, but you aren't down in Texas there, Jacob. So do you remember anything that happened with Michael Irvin?
No.
So Michael Irvin is a former Dallas Cowboys wide receiver, and now he became a really good NFL football analyst, right? So he was in a hotel for an NFL-related reason, because I think he works for either NFL Network or ESPN at the time. And the first thing we heard was he had been accused of like sexually assaulting a woman or something like that. And his lawyers came out and said, "Oh no, this is completely false, and we have evidence to prove it." Right? But he got fired from the NFL. He got fired from ESPN. All sorts of. He lost endorsements. I think he lost like I read somewhere someone said he might have lost upward of $20 million potential income in the next year or two because of it, plus jobs and all.
Yeah.
So
wow.
He comes out, and here's the thing: the hotel, right, was trying to block him getting the footage from the hotel security camera. He had to go to court, and a judge had to order them to give the footage up, and the hotel This hotel, if I recall, at first refusing the judge. The judge said she's going to threaten to seize everything from the hotel, like have the hotel raided if they don't do it. So they gave the footage to Irvin's team, right? On the footage, it clearly shows at the time this alleged happened, the woman tried to touch Michael Irvin. He kept backing away from her and putting people between them, and that like she was acting like a fan and talking to him, right? She's a hotel staffer, but he kept keeping physical distance because he just wanted to talk, right? And so at no point any actual physical contact occurred between them, right? And then it shows him walking away by himself, and so so he put that out there, and then Michael Irvin sued. He didn't sue both ESPN and NFL. I think because one of them gave him his job back and supposedly retroed the pay, but he sued the other one. He sued the hotel. He sued the woman. He was going to sue the cops because they didn't even get the hotel footage. The cops when they listened to our charge of it, like the charges were filed but not submitted or something like that. But they could have went right in. This is another thing that pet peeves me, right? And I'm fairly right of center for the most part. I tend to support the police mostly, but I watch a lot of these videos where with because I'm also like libertarian, anti-government power type of thing, and I don't know if you see them, Jacob, but there are lots and lots of videos of cops brutalizing people for no apparent reason, demanding things, arresting people. Like I watched a video last night of this guy who first these people are repairing their car, right? Their car broke down and they're trying to repair it. So the cop comes up and starts interrogating them about repairing their car, right? Now in the old days, like when I was young, I remember when my grandpa's car broke down the side of the road, the cop pulled over and helped him fix it. And this is a little maybe Italian community thing. When I was a kid, sometimes cops would harass kids. There was ethnic problems, like Irish cops still has Italian kids and all that, and there were some bad cops, right? And we were told we had a neighborhood cop, Tony, right? Tony would eat lunch with different family every day. He come by with his family for big like community events. He was our community cop, And Tony told everyone, if you get messed with by a cop, shut your mouth. If you have to take a beating, you take it. You tell me, and I'll deal with it. And I remember one time, one of my friends he was a little bad. I think he threw a rock at a window, but didn't break it or whatever. And the cop literally beat the crap out of him. And he told Tony, and Tony beat the crap out of the cop. Like there was no like the police used to police themselves from these violent animals. You know what I mean? They not to say they were saints, but like if you like embarrass the police in public, like some of these garbage cops do, there was a famous one in Texas. They call him the combat roll cop, right? There was some sort of like maybe a little BLM protest going on, but this one girl wasn't part of it. She was just standing by the bus stop, right? So this one cop, and the clear view of the cameras, of all the body cameras and the news media cameras, combat rolls up behind her, tackles her into a wall, and she's just staying there at the bus stop, right? So it was so bad, other cops ran over, pulled him off of her, and arrested him right away. Like there wasn't even a debate about it because the girl was like staying in a bus stop. You couldn't even say, well, she might have been with them. Like and they call him a combat role cop because he did that combat role thing into her, So that's a good example of police policing themselves, right? So I saw talking about a video last night, right, where this cop he arrested a dude for he harasses these people who were repairing their truck, and he gets all their IDs, which technically I hate. Like I'm not going to go off on the ID thing to tell us, but anyway, gets this guy's ID. Claimed he runs it, and claimed to come back that there's a warrant, right? And end of the story, I'll tell you, the guy had to say an extremely similar name but a different birthday, so it was a different guy who had the warrant, right? So he grabs the guy and said, "I have to arrest you. Can you have a warrant?" And I go, "Well, what warrant do I have? I have no idea what's going on." And he won't tell the guy what it is because he himself didn't even look. Finally, he gets the guy to the police station while refusing to even look at the thing, right? And then he gets a message from dispatch finally saying, you picked up the wrong guy, basically. And then he tries to blame the dispatch for the problem. When it shows on his own body camera, he could have looked at the guy's actual ID, looked at the name on the warrant, seen the birthday was different. It was, I think, one letter spelling the name, and not having harassed that guy for half an hour or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
And there's too many cops like that now, like who don't even do a cursory investigation before they arrest people. Like, there's another case of a woman in. I know we're derailing this show, but this is interesting stuff to talk about. I think it was in Colorado, right? And by the way, 9 out of 10 times when you hear about this stuff, it's in places where Democrats run the cities, states. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm not saying Republicans don't have bad cops; they do, but 9 out of 10 times, this out of control, fascistic stuff that cops do is in places where Democrats run the problem. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, this woman in Colorado, someone in Colorado,
because police are able to do their jobs in a Republican state.
Well, not even that. It's worse, Jacob. So basically, the Democrats are basically Marxists, right? Socialists, and what the Marxists and socialists need to maintain their police states, they need fascistic cops. So they don't psychologically screen these guys. They don't give them proper training, right? And so, like, how many? There are literally cops who don't know who their cases get thrown out because the cop couldn't even articulate the Constitution. So and that's in these states. So they're training them to be fascist thugs, not to be actual investigators and all. It's crazy.
Right.
But anyway, so in Colorado, and this is the last police thing. Hopefully, we'll do. Is this woman and her boyfriend and her sister, or her husband and sister? They're in a nightclub. They're having a normal time. She's not criminal or anything. And while she's in there, multiple security cameras catch what happens outside. This crazy guy is running from police. I think he's high on drugs. I think he hit a cop with his car. All sorts of horrible things, right? He runs and jumps on top of our car and starts jumping on our hood repeatedly, right? And dents it and marks it up, and he runs off, right? So if the cops, some other cops find that car and say, "Oh, we found his car," they think our car is the car hit the cop. So she comes out of the club and like, "What's going on with my car?" Right? And they arrest her and start screaming at her, interrogating her. "Oh, you're going to jail. You almost killed a cop, blah, blah, blah." They abuse her, like in terms of taking, like, they're not brutal, but they handle her roughly. They dehumanize her. And all they had to do was one of them go get the hotel footage and see what actually happened. None of the 40 cops did. Okay.
Yeah.
Then and she ultimately won, like, I think $7 million.
You can't assume. You can't.
Yeah. Yep.
Stupid. You can't assume that just because you see somebody jumping on a car. Oh, it's their car.
Yeah. Well, you can say, okay, maybe that's their car, so let's detain her for a few months while we go get the footage, right? You got to investigate properly, But you can't just. They went all in, and she actually got prosecuted until the finally her lawyers got all the camera footage that the police never even looked for, and then the case was, I don't know if she won the court case, like not guilty. I think she won some charges because they found the footage in the charges. I'm misremembering it, but basically she won either because it was dropped or she won, right? Then she countersued. Then they tried to claim this thing, qualified immunity, where they were just doing their jobs or whatever. The federal appeals court threw that out in like 10 seconds when it got there because I think she won. I want to say $7 million. Yeah. Anyway, so that's my my libertarian rant. Like, I don't think she won enough. I mean, in terms of when you sue the government. What? Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't think
surveillance cameras are there to protect people. I mean, you take the.
Oh, you're lagging out again, Jacob.
That to the police. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. Are you there?
Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So he was saying take it to about taking it to the police.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I think you're lagging, Jacob. Yeah, I think Jacob is lagging.
Yeah,
So
probably.
yeah, so let me okay, let's give you like just follow along with like till 30 seconds. See, maybe your connection will catch up. So let's see, and I'll just finish up on this article we're talking about. And my final thought is, I don't think these amounts that are given to people now when they win or get settlements is even enough, because budgets have gotten so big for the government that $7 million is nothing to a decent sized city now. So it's not punitive and won't make them retrain the cops or punish them for costing this amount of money. So that's that. Oh, we have a guest, not a guest, a watcher, listener. Welcome to the Universe Galaxy NBA. Welcome to the chat. I think you're a first timer. Any questions? Type them out. We're a small show here, so we're always interactive. I got 109 subscribers. So I got one more now since I had yesterday. We'll see. So our next topic, and how's the connection looking, Jacob?
Seems to be okay. I mean, the little Wi-Fi thing's not popping up in the corner. I don't know.
Oh, well, okay. So, you're on a Mac. How would you do this on a Mac? Let me tell you. I'm going to type something on my end real quick. IP config. Yeah, okay, that's going to be more complicated than you need to do. I was going to say on Windows or Linux, I could tell you to open up a command prompt and type a command that would show you your latency constantly. You would, if you saw that spike, that's when you would lag out. But you said you answered me in real time, so I'm pretty sure the latency calmed down. Okay. So then the next article we'll do is a more positive one. This John Wayne Western remains one of the most accurate portrayals of the Wild West, and they're talking about the man who shot Liberty Valance.
Ooh, yeah.
Are they? Wait. Are they talking about the man who shot Liberty Valance? Wait a minute. Legend and myth making are the backbone, and as a classic John Ford Western, once emphasized, the legend becomes. Okay, so they are talking because they mentioned a whole bunch of other John Wayne movies, and no, they're not talking about here. This is a badly written article. It's a cool article about what it's about, but badly written. Right. However, there's one Western of his, The Cowboys, describes one of the accurate portrayals of the Wild West. So that's the movie. So let's call up The Cowboys. I'm assuming you've seen that one, right, Jacob? So the Cowboys it's from 1972. It's a John Wayne film. It was directed by Mark Riddell. Let's see, what else has he directed? On Golden Pond. I like that movie. I was surprised I liked that movie. Filmography. Oh yeah, good. Small filmography. Okay. Fox. Do I remember this one? I think I know the Rose. I think a rock, loosely based on Janis Joplin. So Janis Joplin fans tell me about that one. I don't like that movie. On Golden Pond, I liked a lot. Starring Henry Fonda, and then So anyway, back to the Cowboys. So what is the Cowboys about? In 1878, when his ranch hand abandoned during the gold rush, aging rancher Will Anderson must find replacement drovers for his 400-mile cattle drive. He rides into deserted Bozeman, Montana, where his friend Nancy Peterson suggests hiring local schoolboys, and he basically hires a bunch of kids, and eventually they show up and volunteer. He trains the kids, sort of older men mentoring the younger guys, next generation type of movie, and it's a really good movie. I'm not. I personally, yes, it's realistic. I would not say I wouldn't put it in John Wayne's top 10 movies. For example, and of course there's Danger on the West and all that sort of stuff, but it's an enjoyable movie for sure. You there? Oh, Jacob had dropped out again. Okay, well, let me see if he's messaging me at all. Okay, so Jacob probably reboot his computer. If he can't come back, we'll deal. Jacob has we'll have problems, and so that's a. I was strongly urging people to see the Cowboys. Do I have a clip from it? Let me double check. I think I have. I don't actually have this one. I'm going to have to grab it. Okay. I mean, not right now, obviously. I'm not going to just go buy it or whatever, but I'll have to get it because I remember liking this movie. I haven't seen it in years. Next up, so we'll talk about this situation. So Amanda Steinberg and we had just mentioned this in light of the YouTuber, people should be suing people who do this and all that. But the other aspect I really got this article for was because of the following. Okay. These woke people, there's two sets of them, right? Well, three sets. There's the Marxists who are pushing it, the people they have indoctrinated who work for them like her, and the corporations who just want to make money, right? And who may align with them politically, right? So these people, in general, don't understand why people won't watch this stuff. They don't. They think it doesn't. They either think it's good or the quality doesn't matter, and so they're blaming people not watching it, not because their product sucks, right? But because they're racist or sexist or whatever, right? So they're now and they're saying, well, people wouldn't think that if these other people weren't complaining about it. And that's kind of the sequencing going on here that I'm talking about. And this is exactly what happened under Marxism, right? They attack you for disagreeing with them. They blame you for others disagreeing with them, and so on and so forth. And eventually it becomes a cycle of gulags and purges, And then the last article I had prepared, if Jacob gets back, he gets back. Okay? Not. This is predictable. A spin-off of Amazon Prime's highly successful Reacher series in the works. Nick Santoro, who developed Lee Child's Jack Reacher novel for television and served as a producer, blah, blah, blah. Is at the core of the spin-off with Nicholas Watson. Plot specific on the wrath, but spectrum focus on the character Francis Neagley, played by Maria Sten, in the series alongside Alan Richardson and Jack Reacher. Right? So, for the thing people don't know, is that Jacob back? Third time's the charm, Jacob?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I can hear you.
Yeah. I said third time's the charm.
I hope so.
So my last prepared article was about the Reacher Reacher spinoff, which I had predicted, by the way. That so in the books, the character of Neely only appears in 4. Well, she appears in 7 books, but in she's only a big character in 3 or 4 of them, right? And so when she was in the first season, for some reason, this character got over big time. You know what I mean? The fans love her character, right? So, and I said, given what there are so many Reacher books, this series will never run long enough to do them all. I can see Lee Childs taking some of the ones that are repetitive, because I hate to say this, but the Reacher books get a little repetitive, right? And maybe repurposing those plots in a. So they still have to think is the Reacher books do tie in together. So you'll have references from 15 books ago from something that happened, right? So they could maybe repurpose that so that some of those events still occur in the Reacher universe and just have them oriented around her character or whatever. That's a viable way to do an adaptation, And this is yeah. So when this character is being popularized, because with the novels they're adapting, I think the next one she's not even supposed to be in it. So they're probably gonna have to write her in it because she's so popular, and then like after that she'll be on her own series, and that will keep the fans happy and let them not have to alter the Reacher stories to keep shoehorning her in. So
right.
yeah. The third season of Reacher was based on the book Persuader with Sten Richardson as well as Anthony Michael Hall, blah, blah, blah. So let's look at the Reacher book. Well, actually, let's look at the Francis Neely. Let's go here. So this is the character. So appearances, right? So her appearance in a novel appears 5 novels and a short story, right? And the novel they're adapting that they're shoehorning her in isn't even on the list. The Persuader isn't even on this list. You know what I mean? So that's why I think they'll do it. I suggested they'll probably do. Yeah. This year I don't know if you ever I read the first 3 or 4 books of it before, and I enjoyed them, but they were somewhat repetitive, and I was like, yeah, maybe I'll read them. I'll get a couple more someday or whatever, But I think let's see, how many are there now? TV. Where's the list of the novels? Let's do it this way. Jack Reacher. And by the way, there's nothing like this is normal for this type of fiction. Okay, so there are there are currently 29 of them, right, and this is a type of fiction.
Yeah.
The James Bond novels are like this. There's tons of them. Probably the most famous people heard of would be Doc Savage or Remo Williams, The Destroyer, The Hardy Boys, Sherlock Holmes, where tons of novels and short stories about these characters doing investigation and science or whatever, So that's a normal type for that genre, right? But to me, it got a little like I'll go back to the top of the list, right? So I was reading them. I read the first book, which I think is Killing Floor, and then I realized it was a chronological order issue. So I went back and tried to get the ones before it. You know what I mean? So because I hate reading things out of chronological order. Yeah. So and like I said, I enjoyed them. I just found them repetitive after a while. Let me get rid of these extra windows. Okay. Now, you have any articles or whatever you want to talk about, Jacob?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Oh, so I wanted to talk about this particular thing from the show last night, but I didn't want Roman was trying to not dive heat death, so I didn't do it then. Let me see if I can find the scene in the movie if we didn't find it. Okay, we'll use it from this point. I'll explain the scene. Let's share tab, present, stop screen, present, share screen, window. This one. So this is the movie we reviewed on Roman Channel last night, and we were talking about the in science fiction aspect the power levels, right? And you see those meters on the back, right, on the wall, and the way this, how do I put this? So the way he explained the power in the power scaling here has been a debate in the fandoms on and off for years, right? I mean, like I remember when we were talking about this movie in college when I went to the engineering school first, and when one of the things you would do with science fiction, you sit around and break it apart and try to analyze it. So science is just something you did as a hobby, So when this scene came up, we were debating when he was saying that each one was like 10 times more than the previous one, was he talking about exponentiation or tetration? right? And if it was tetration, this would be the first and maybe only example of tetration on the screen. Now, you may say, Matt, what is tetration? Is that some sort of your mathematical foreign nonsense word very good to hear? Okay. So before I explain what tetration is, I will say that one of the things that like lay people never encounter this, even most scientists never encounter this, but at the high end of physics and mathematics, you get some absurdly large and absurdly small numbers. So you have and like if you want to write like for example, how can I do this? Like you could write down. Well, let's start this way. I wish I had a tablet. I could do this. Oh, maybe I could type it. Let's type it. Open up a WordPad. It's not going to be the greatest way to do this, but it should explain simple enough, right? So let me share a different tab. Nemo, share. Come on, Nemo, show up. No, didn't work. Nemo is the text editor for Linux. I'm trying to find this. This one, maybe. Oh, Linux, you give so much, you take so much away. This is okay. This would be it. Yeah. Okay. So again, this isn't the greatest way to explain this. I would rather draw up by hand. But let's say you want to represent a number that you might encounter when you're a little kid. So, and I'll express it abstractly first and give examples. That number might be the number m, right? It's a variable. It could be 10. It could be 5. Whatever. It's there. And let's say you want to express that addition, right? Well, then you have m plus n, right? So m plus n equals some value, right? And that value with m and n, you could have 100 as m and 102 as m, and you get 202, right? And when you want to express a really big value with m and n, well, the problem is, let's say you want to talk about a number like the mass of the sun. I don't know if you can tell what's happening here on screen, audience and Jacob, but that's just the m. You know what I mean? So how do we talk about that in a way that might be more meaningful? Okay. Well, we have another operation,
easily readable.
Yeah, we have another operation which instead of m plus n, it might be m times n. So to get to the mass of the sun, we can, instead of having, you can have two smaller numbers that multiply to that bigger number, and that might be something like this, times this, and that's a little more comprehensible and readable, but still a little awkward, right? Mind you, that's not the mass of the sun. I'm just making up a number for the sake of argument. Well, the next operation up that very people know of is this one, m. Where is it? Where's my others? To the n, right? And that, and you could express, for example, I'm trying to pick a big number. For example, you could express 256 equal to m times n. M to the n equals, in 256 would be 2 to the 16 is 4, 3, 2, 5, 4, 6, 7, to the 8th. So, and that's much simpler to the 8th than not a little simpler. But when you get a really big number, right, you can say 2 to the 800th, right? And that number could represent the mass of the sun, which would be a 15-digit number, but it's much easier to read, right?
Right.
So, and then you can combine those, and you can have something like this, 4 times 2 to the 10th, right? So that would be 4 times 1 million. That's 4 million. 2 to the 10th is 1 million. Well, approximately 1 million. It has a couple digits in the end, right? It's a megabyte. Is the best way to think of it. So, and that's a simple way to express what will be a 10-digit number, right? Well, numbers can get absurdly large, right? And even using exponentiation, you still would run out of, like, you would have to have, like, to describe, say, I think the mass of a galaxy, right? The exponentiation will look something like this, like one times 10 to the. You see how absurd this is getting? You know, like
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So there's another operation called, how do I put it? The next one up is called tetration, and I'm trying to the visual way to depict it. It's m to the n, right? But n is equal to a series, not not a series, a multi. I'm not going to understand it. I'll show what it looks like. So, whereas 2 squared, 2 squared equals 4, right? Tetration has the exponent on the left instead of the right. 2 tetrated to the fourth. Why did I type 5? 4. 2 tetrated to the fourth, right? Is equal to 2 raised to the second power 4 times. Sorry, 2 to the fourth power 4 times. Meaning, take 2 to the fourth, raise that to the fourth power. Take 2 to the fourth, raise that to the fourth power. Take 2 to the fourth, raise that to the fourth power. And it's equivalent of 2 to the 4 times 4 times 4 times 4, which is 216. So that's equal to 200 to the 16th power. 16. 2 to the 16th power. Okay? And now the word tetrade is not there. I'll call up the tab now, and where is it? I'll show it in a tab now. So you just, I wanted to go over how the math looks before I go to the Wikipedia page. Let's present. And present. Brave, Amanda Steinberg, and we'll go to tetration. So here's the tetration page, right? And in mathematics, tetration is an operation based on iterate or repeated exponentiation. Okay, so this is the kind of formula for it, and here's the scaling I mentioned before: addition, then multiplication, then exponentiation, then tetration. And you see how a to the n times basically, and it looks like you see the exponents on the left side instead of the right side. Okay. And there's other notations for it, by the way, but that's the one most Americans would be used for. And the idea is to express larger and larger numbers, like examples. Okay. Here's so 4 tetrated to the second is, see how examples of tetration, basically, right? And see how absurdly large these numbers can get, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because tetration allows you to express it in much simpler form than writing something out. Like 3. This is a tetration of 3, and it's a huge number. So that's the point of it. That's the point of what the mathematics are for. Now, the question, the reason I bring this up for the movie Forbidden Planet is, was this an example of actual tetration when the writers wrote this, which would explain why that nuclear blast looked like a star exploding. Like that planetary explosion looked like a star exploding. If you remember the graphic, and
right.
And I mean, I know it's a nerdy and whatever, but it's a more like, it's one of the things you kind of nerds discuss. The science nerds discuss when they talk about the movie. So.
Hey, I know what it is, and I can understand what you're saying, but some of it just goes over my head a little bit.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I'm a genius with it, because this.
I mean, the average person probably has never heard of this, but yeah, so I'm one of the ones who've heard of it.
Yeah, well, like for example, when I went to the school for the first time in college, we were told what this is and basics of how it worked, right? But we were told, unless you're working on a PhD in physics, mathematics, or some rare types of engineering, you're never going to see this again. Like, we need to know what it is.
Yeah, right.
Because you had to understand what's called basic number theory once you got to calculus, right? And by the way, tetration isn't the stop. There's pentation, septation, and what that keep doing the same thing. And that's hard to understand. So like tetration, like you said, like we understand is like four tetrated to 3 is 4 to the fourth power to the fourth power to the fourth power, right? So we understand. Pentation is that to another power. Like it's hard to wrap your mind around. And mathematicians and physicists need those absurdly large numbers. This is the only way they have to express them. It's insane, like the things that you've had to come up with, which tie back to something else that's pretty funny. Interesting. So I think we talked about it last week. Like things that point to the existence of a creator. Like, so there's a British mathematician, right? And he's world famous. Like he's a world famous mathematician, right? And he thinks mathematics proves the existence of God because mathematics is all abstract, meaning like mathematics is all valid and abstract, but abstract. Like there's no math on this envelope order. You know what I mean? It's a physical object, right? We may through physics apply mathematical properties to it, but the actual mathematical properties don't exist in reality. They exist in thought. So his question is, well, but these things do exist, so they had to be created by a mind. The problem is that they were inherent when the universe began at the Big Bang. Those mathematical structures had to be there for the laws of physics to use them, right? So he says, what mind created them? And that to him is proof that God exists. So that's these mathematical concepts. There's a sort of rabbit hole with, like there's a video I was watching some of the other day. I might watch the rest of an astrophysicist who goes over all the scientific proofs for God, like all of them that he found. So I'm not saying God doesn't exist. Everyone makes their own choice based on the input they get.
I mean, in nature there are mathematical patterns.
Well, okay, let me be careful how I phrase this. In nature, nature expresses the mathematical pattern, but the pattern isn't in nature. Like when you see for example, if you want to calculate, you know what the Fibonacci sequence is?
Yes.
Okay, and there are some things that correspond to the Fibonacci sequence, right? Right, but the Fibonacci sequence itself is not in those things that correspond to it. It just, but that mathematical concept, it expresses what occurs. Yeah. So in order for that, in other words, like it's a chicken and egg thing, right? In order for that thing to express the Fibonacci sequence, the Fibonacci sequence has to exist first. You know what I mean? Right? So, but the Fibonacci sequence is an entirely mental construct, right? There's no like you can't just open up the wall in the universe. Oh, there's a circuit board with the Fibonacci sequence and close that wall in the universe like a holodeck, right? So the question is, who built a universe based around these mathematical concepts that we only know because we can virtualize them in our head and abstract them out? It's a pretty fascinating sort of rabbit hole to go into. The whole sort of and I think we talked less about the coincidences of design with the universal constants. It's a pretty interesting topic. No, what were we talking about? Oh, that was the tetration thing. Well, let's get to the big part of the show, Jacob. I got to turn off the background here so you all can see what I'm holding in my hand. Done. Stop screen. We're down to 3 little golden books. So we have Star Wars. I wish there's like 5 different versions of it. Super Mario and the Goonies. So you pick, Jacob.
Let's go with the Goonies.
Okay. So the Goonies is a movie from what, like 1985 or something like that. I think it's actually a Steven Spielberg movie.
Yeah, something like that. I think.
Will this spoil the Goonies as much as Stranger Things spoiled Stranger Things, or Aliens spoil Aliens? We'll find out. So I have to break the spine, so to speak, to open the book Like, yeah, let's see if we hit the crack. Oh, it didn't crack. Sometimes it cracks.
85. Yep, 85.
Yep. Okay. So I got the book's ready to be read. So it's The Goonies, a little golden book. I'm gonna full screen myself here. Okay. The Goonies, it's a little golden pop book, which means they have the bobblehead dolls, I think. Okay. And it's written by Aria. Why is my camera focus? Aria Kaplan and Jason Angelone. Illustrated agent. Okay. Ooh. Here's our article. Cool. Mikey was a little boy who loved adventure, but none ever seemed to come his way. He lived in a place called the Goondocks. His best friends were Mouth, Data, and Chunk. Mouth liked making jokes. Data invented gadgets. Chunk could make friends with anyone he met. They called themselves the Goonies. When a big company was about to destroy their homes, the Goonies discovered One-Eyed Willie's pirate map. The treasure's worth a lot of money. They could find it and save the Goondocks. They would be the Goondock scenes. When Mikey found a skull-shaped key, they knew they were getting close. Guys, look at this, he said. He knew the pirates loved skulls. Mikey's big brother, Brand, joined the Goonies on their quest. His friends Andy and Steph came along too. They wanted to make sure the Goonies were safe while they searched for the treasure. I read that backwards, so it worked out of the way, though. Good enough.
Yeah.
Here we go. But a family of criminals known as the Fratellis, bad Italians, right? The Fratellis heard the Goonies talking about the treasure. They wanted it for themselves. Oh my God! Look at Mama Fratelli.
Yeah.
Oh my God. The Goonies followed the pirate map into an underground tunnel. It all starts here, Mikey announced. At the beginning of the treasure hunt, the Goonies realized the Fratellis were behind them. Knowing the Fratellis were sure to cause trouble, Chunk was looking for help. And the Fratellis caught Chunk. Mama Fratelli put Chunk in a dungeon. A man named Sloth was also locked up with Chunk. Sloth looked a little strange, but Chunk was always ready to make a friend. My name's Lawrence, Chunk said. Sometimes people call me Chunk. Sloth told Chunk the Fratellis wouldn't let him join their gang because he looked different. That's why they locked him up. Chunk shared his candy with Sloth, and they quickly became best buddies. Meanwhile, Mikey put the key he had found earlier into a lock. It set off a booby trap. Big rocks fell down around them. The Goonies jumped out of the way. They were very brave. Look at Brand at the headband. But then Brand heard a noise. Listen, he said, it sounds like somebody's down there. He ducked into a cave and looked around. Suddenly there were dozens of bats. Bats! Sorry, guys. The Fratellis were catching up to the Goonies as they got closer to the treasure. The Goonies realized the bad guys were following them when they tried to cross an old key bridge. Whoa! I got a great idea, you guys, Data told his friends. Slick shoes. Data pulled out a string on his shirt, and little nozzles appeared on his shoes. The nozzles squirted oil all over the bridge. Jake Fratelli tried to cross it, and so did his brother Francis. They slipped. Was Data played by Short Round?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
The focus on my camera is weird. Okay, I have to read down here, guys. Camera won't focus. After the Goonies had safely crossed the bridge, they saw a door and an organ made of bones in front of it. According to the map, someone needed to play a tune by following the instructions perfectly. Andy was scared, but she tried and it worked. The Goonies walked through the door and woohoo, went down a water slide on the other side. There are more words in this little book than I think in any of the other ones.
Yeah, seems like it.
Yeah, my camera is laggy for some reason. The water slide dropped the Goonies into a lagoon. They looked up in shock. A pirate ship was docked there. It was One-Eyed Willie's ship. The Goonies went inside the boat. Piles of gold and jewelry were everywhere. You know something, Mikey said to Willie Skeleton? You were the first Goonie. Look, Mama Fratelli. I love the version of that character.
Yeah.
Suddenly the Fratellis showed up, and they were holding pirate swords. Mama Fratelli wanted the Goonies to jump overboard into the choppy waters below. Walk the plank, she barked. Just then, Chunk and Sloth arrived, both wearing pirate hats. They had escaped the prison. Sloth called to the Fratellis, "Hey, you guys!" "Chunk," Mikey exclaimed. "No, it's Captain Chunk," Chunk answered, adjusting his hat. Sloth quickly overpowered the Fratellis. The Goonies were safe. But not for long. The cables around the lagoon began to crumble and fall apart. The Goonies and Sloth got out just in time. Mikey had taken some jewels from the pirate ship. He gave them to his parents, who were waiting for him on the beach. Now Mikey wouldn't have to move, and neither would his friends. They had saved the town. "We don't have to leave the Goondocks," Mikey told them all with a big grin. No longer trapped in the lagoon, One-Eyed Willie's pirate ship drifted out into the ocean and sailed away. The Goonies cheered as they watched it go. Mikey and his friends had been on one incredible adventure. This is the best one since A for Aliens.
Yeah, I agree.
I enjoyed it. It told the story of the movie very well. Yeah, because this is a lighthearted movie to begin with, right? It's a kid movie. It got all the story points. The art was good. I'm going to show what Mama Fratelli looks like, so you all understand why I'm laughing. Actually, before I do that, I will do it now. We'll do because I present. So this is what Mama Fratelli looked like in the movie. Did show up. Yeah. And they turned that into this character here. Like, which is accurate with the necklace and the hat and everything, but it's a stark contrast. You know.
Yeah.
So I would rate this one a 5 out of 5. Perfect for kids.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Jacob?
I would say the same.
Yeah. So that has been this week's Little Golden Book. I'll have this ripped out and posted hopefully by Monday as a separate little file, a separate little video of its own. Let's stop screen, and of course we're down to the last two. I might see any of these. I'll look onto any more fun ones that are on discount or whatever. You know, cause I'm not going to buy all 6 Star Wars or whatever one. You know what I mean? But we'll see.
Right.
And I'll put the spoiler thing I did in front of the other one on front of the Goonies too. That's a full spoiler. Okay, so anything 6:10, I kind of aim for around this time, an hour and a half, 15 minutes, hour and a half ish. So I think the show is good. We talked about everything I want to talk about. We gave tech advice out there to people. That's pretty much it as far as the prepared show. Yeah, I usually search for a random article too. So let's just do that to make the show random, you know. So we'll look. We'll try to find 2 or 3 articles. See what. You know, let's go to cosmic book news. Like, all I'll say this one is, did anyone not expect this to happen? You know, I will talk about Rings of Prime. Okay, I will do a little bit, but I realized I was thinking about, like, because I'm struggling to get through the, like, so I watched the 4 episodes once on a live watch with a channel I do called The Questions, which is one of the White Cloaks, and then I have to do my videos. I have to sort of watch them with kind of to get my notes and whatever. I have not been able to watch the first episode again for more than 5 minutes at a time. So I'll watch 5 minutes, get like a clip or a note for something, and I have to turn it off and go do something else for like hours just to get back to it. That's how much I hate this show. You know? And I was thinking about why I hate it so much, and then I realized. So when they got the license for Rings of Prime, they licensed the appendices to that are in the Lord of the Rings. And there's actually a lot of story in there because there's timelines and histories and whatever. But so they could have done way better than they did. But there's something they legitimately did not have access to. For example, the center of Mordor is Mount Doom. The reason Sauron founded Mordor where it was because of Mount Doom. Now, why is that important? Because Melkor, or Morgoth, made Mount Doom and built a chunk of his power in there. And that is why Sauron wanted to take control of Mount Doom to tap that power and therefore built Mordor around it, so to speak, right? Now, the show did not have access to Mount Doom being created by Melkor, okay? So they can't make that claim. But they also can't put something that conflicts with that. So they had to come up with this scheme of Sauron using water to activate like an extinct volcano, right? Which doesn't inherently conflict. Yeah, it doesn't inherently conflict with Melkor creating Mount Doom, right? But it doesn't say he did either. So it works with the narrative. Now we all know that the way they executed that was stupid. They could. I mean, if I were writing it and had to deal with the constraint, I would have literally had Sauron himself just do some sort of complex ritual with a lot of sacrifices and wake up the volcano that way. You know what I mean? But that being said, okay, a lot of the changes they make, because they don't have access to the original lore, not only are bad writing, but they inherently conflict with what Tolkien wrote, not in terms of sequencing, but in terms of like value and content, like what Tolkien was trying to express, the way he did told the story element, they expressed the exact opposite of it, right? So,
right.
What's a good example of that? Well, the rings, right? So they trying to get they tied the rings into Mithril, and they've tied Mithril to the Silmarils. Now, that none of that is linked in the actual lore, right? But the way they've tied it together, right, doesn't also conflict with the lore, you know? And because of that, what the Silmarils represent, a unique construct that was hallowed by Varda, right? The evil cannot bear the presence of it, right? Yet now these rings are made of Silmaril power metal, and evil is hanging around them all the time. Like literally, if you have an evil thought while you're touching a Silmaril, it'll burn you.
Right. Uh-huh.
So now they're depicting these rings made of Mithril, which is power from a Silmaril, and these elves having like greedy, evil thoughts with them. Right? You see that? So that conflicts with how Tolkien, like that doesn't conflict explicitly with how he wrote the origin of Silmarils, but it conflicts with the concept of what they're supposed to do. You know what I mean? And
right. I mean, it's the elves are inherently good in Lord of the Rings. They're good.
Well,
and well, I'm just saying, just hear me out. And orcs are evil. They can't do anything else but be evil. They're blurring it. They're blurring the lines of what's good and what's evil in the show.
In a way, yes. I agree with what you're saying, but I think like you don't have the deep lore dive that I do, and like you're using wrongly structured arguments to make the right point, if you get what I'm saying. All right. It's because Tolkien struggled with the nature of the orcs because he's Catholic and the Lord of the Rings complies with his Catholic faith, and no free willed being is inherently evil. Okay, you have to choose to be evil. And so what are the orcs? Well, originally the orcs were automatons created by Melkor, right? So they were represented Melkor as evil, and you could kill them left and right, and it wouldn't matter because they didn't have souls, right? The only things that have souls in Lord of the Rings, by the way, which is the breath of life from Iluvatar, who is Yahweh, are elves, men, who were the first children of Iluvatar, the dwarves, who were created as Aule but were automatons, but because he recognized that Aule was not trying to create his own life like Melkor wanted, but just wanted to create something beautiful, basically, and joyous. And also Aule humbled himself. He said, I will grant your children the breath of life as well, but they have to sleep until after the elves and the men awake, So he gave them souls.
Yeah.
And then Varda loved the Ents so much, she asked Eru to give them souls as well. So those are 4 things that have souls, right? And eventually Tolkien said, okay, we need to make Melkor do something really profoundly evil, right? And so the origin of the orc, and Tolkien was still working on this, but the last published orc origin, right, is that in the ancient times, Melkor and Sauron captured elves and began working their foul powers and torture on them and produced a physical form and a lifestyle that was a mockery of the elves that was also easily could be mind controlled by Melkor and Sauron or other Ainur, right? And that were essentially, they were elven souls trapped in these horrible bodies that tortured them because Morgoth hated the elves, hated them inherently, right?
Yeah.
And so the Orcs lived tortured lives. This is something that is not being shown. Even Peter Jackson was captured. The Orcs live tortured lives because their souls know that they're trapped in these hideous forms, and only by death, when they die, their elven soul goes to the halls of Mandos in the Undying Lands, and after a time of respite and sort of like psychological coaching from the Valar, they'll be reborn in a normal elf body. They'll be freed from the cycle. And that, if you follow what Tolkien's world is, that's what happened to all the orcs. Eventually, they just died off because their societies don't sustain themselves. I'll get to why in a minute. And were reborn in Undying Land and thus freed from Melkor's cycle of evil, And so the orcs are trapped and tortured. At a soul level, they know they're trapped, so they suffer, right? But at a physical level, they don't know that. And so, but they just resent the elves, like they had that resentment that more, you know what I mean? They don't know why they resent the elves. They hate them.
Okay.
But it's a self-hatred. Like the elven soul sees itself as an elf, and it's torturing itself, so it hates the elves. You know what I mean? And it's a very great psychological construct. And when not being mind controlled and guided by Melkor or Sauron, the orcs feared being around other beings, and they'd separate into small tribes that live like our primitive tribal ancestors with kids and everything, but like tribes, and they go to remote places and avoid people because they don't want, they despise themselves, but they don't know why, and Tolkien still wasn't satisfied with that, but he got that to the point where they weren't inherently evil. They were tortured and forced into making bad choices by the inherent torturous nature of it. But they were free but Eru, via the Valar, freed them from the torture the same way all the children get freed from the suffering of life when we die, so to speak, right? So it fits with the Catholic theology. And that's pretty profound. Right. But what does the Rings of Prime do? Like we saw the orc families just hanging out like regular families, not feel particularly bad about being orcs at all, and then some sort of like Adar propaganda speeches about equal orc rights and stuff like that. Okay, Tolkien's orcs would never accept that. They don't want equal rights. They don't know why they hate the elves or why they hate themselves. It's their self-hatred that makes them violent and disgusting. In other words, like they're not evil for like. I had this talk on the questioners. Like there's 2 types of evil. Like there's the evil guys, like Hitler, for example. People may not accept this, but in his own view, and I'm not saying Hitler was wrong. He's evil, right? But Hitler thought he was the good guy, And like, so he's one type of evil. The worst type of evil is when you're evil, you know it, and you deliberately, knowingly do bad.
I'll
That's
be right back.
and go ahead, yeah. So I'll finish this thought while you're doing it. And that might be an example of Margaret Sanger, who knew murder was wrong and all that, and still chose it because it was like she wanted to do it to accomplish our purposes. So that's actually a worse type of evil. But the orcs, the evil of the orcs, that's Melkor's evil. Melkor deliberately, horribly knew his evil what he did to them, and didn't think he was doing anything good by doing it. He's doing it to do that evil. And I'm the evil guy. I'm going to do the evil thing because I want to do the evil thing. That's he doesn't even psychologically look at him as a good guy. No, he knows he's the bad guy, and that's what he did to the orcs. He made them so self-hatred them, so they didn't understand why they're born self-hating. And it's a fascinating structure. Tolkien's amazing writer, amazing work, and this show just takes all the new and some of it they can't include because they don't have the rights. But when they add their own thing in there, they should, and they can't conflict with the specific events. But they should try to make their adaptation spiritually compliant with Tolkien's intent on these characters. To talk about Galadriel,
yeah,
and a lot of the weirdos don't understand why we're protesting about Galadriel, and like, they're like, well, she was younger, she was less mature, she wasn't the lady. Like, by the time Galadriel gets to the Second Age, she's thousands of years old. She's her young, immature days led to her leaving with the Noldor, almost participate, not quite, but it's like so there was the thing called the kinslaying, which is the first thing which is one of the two things that condemned the Noldor elves, right? But Galadriel's host was the third host of the Noldor, and they stopped before they got to the kinslaying and said, no, that's wrong. We're going to oppose Fëanor and Fingolfin, but then they said, but we still want to go to Middle Earth and rule there. So that was the sin of Galadriel. She wanted to not only experience it, but rule, but exercise power. Okay, and
right,
and that's the journey she is on. That she knows she's powerful. People accept her as a ruler, and she's trying to say, why can't I get past this desire? And when she at the end, and people, you need to read the book version because the movie version makes it about the ring, and it's not about the ring. Okay, so the movie makes it as if she's the temptation of the ring is what does it. Galadriel is not tempted by the ring at all. Okay, Galadriel's temptation is the desire to rule and have power, right? And the ring tries to hit her through that. Ring would, if she touched it, the ring would try to get it to her, but she knows better. She's wise at that point. Like, so when she says she's passed her test, she said, I've passed the test of wanting power. Now I can return home to Valinor. So it's not this, the ring was causing it to her. It's that she knew that her vulnerability was that desire to rule and have power, and
right.
And also the connection to Fëanor, with that was the in joke with the 3 hairs that she gave to Gimli. She refused to give 3 hairs to Fëanor to put in the Silmarils, and so forth.
Right.
Because she had sussed out he was crazy, basically. And again, their version of Galadriel is a mockery of her journey. She's not Galadriel, warrior princess, Literally, there's one major combat scene of Galadriel in the whole of the continued Legendary. There's a couple little ones, and it's one at the end of the War of the Ring, after Celeborn leads the armies of Lothlorien out, because there's more war going on in the Peter Jackson film, and he wipes out the Sauron's forces defending Dol Guldur. She walks up to the tower and with her mind rips it down to its roots asunder. Okay, so that doesn't mean she does know how to fight with a sword. She was considered one of the premier athletes among the female elves back in her youth. So she does know how to do all that, right? But that's not how she would fight. That would be the only time she would pull. Well, yeah, the only time she would pull out a weapon and fight is if someone's countering all that power, and there's very few beings who could do that, And so, in all those scenes where she's using elf food to fight the orcs, she would just look at them and they would explode. Like in Supernatural when the angel would be able to explode. That's what Galadriel would do. There's 500 orcs or whatever. She'd look at them and they just explode. It's not even a contest,
Yeah, it's such the Amazon version of her is so much weaker than the actual
Well,
Peter Jackson or
but
Tolkien
the,
version.
yeah, but the gist I'm getting at is they can't use a lot of our story because it's not in what they license, right? So what they replace it
Right.
with isn't something that is spiritually true to that. It's something that is spiritually the opposite of our story. If you get what I'm
Yeah.
saying, you know. So and
They
on
just
again, yeah.
really all they wanted was the name Lord of the Rings. That's all they
Well,
wanted.
not the,
To give it weight, like, oh look, it's Lord of the Rings. But they made up their own thing. They didn't even follow what was in Lord of the Rings. They just made
yeah.
it up as they went.
Well, again, they had to make a bunch of it because they don't have the rights. One again is Amazon wanted these rights because they wanted to build that studio, but Amazon was planning on and did bid on the full Lord of the Rings rights when they came up a few years later.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
did this show just because you can't just get rights. You have to actually, like the Tolkien family said, if you're gonna do these rights, you better do something that makes us money off of them, right? So not the Tolkien estate, the Saul Zaentz group was at the rights, given the rights. Um, so that's why they did this show. And they're like, oh yeah, whatever. They're just showing from the Second Age. Give it to those two guys over there and just tell us if it makes money or not. You know, because they wanted to get the Legendarium and remake the movies. That's what they want.
Yeah.
Okay? And so that's why I think when you most of the time when we do these shows, it's like a 3-year contract for all the actors and workers. After the third season, this is just going to be canceled. And I don't think Amazon even cares about it. And that's it. Like they don't care about anything other than making money on it. So the people on it are left to do what they want. You know what I mean? Like it's not like Kathleen
Yeah.
Kennedy where she's deliberately making this horrible product. The money making Amazon like, oh yeah, whatever. It's just some second alarms that no one's going to care about, and this garbage being produced. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've been thinking about like structurally why it's so offensive, and it hit me that the showrunners and writers are the purposely or through ignorance when they fill in their version of these stories, they're not even attempting to or understanding like spiritually what Tolkien was doing when he told those stories, like what he meant with Galadriel's journey, or with why Mount Doom was important to Sauron, or um, even here another. I'll give you another example of this, and I'm gonna turn my camera off. Give me 1 second. I got to stand up for a second because of. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, so this is this might get a little deep dive, Lori, but I'll keep it as simple as possible, right? So, and these are concepts right out of Catholicism, but adapted to different words, adapted to Tolkien's storytelling, meaning with some Norse mythology style stuff in there. Okay, so in Norse mythology or Germanic mythology, there's two things. There's the Hroa, Hroa, the physical, and the Fea, the spirit, or the fear. Well, fear. The Fear. It looks like the word fear, but one of the characters has like an asterisk over it or something. So it's not like like the English alphabet. And so the Hroa and the Fea, the physical and spiritual, right? And like that's what Fëanor's name means, spirit of fire. And everything is related to one of those two things. And the physical is the seen world, right? And the spiritual is the unseen world, which surrounds us, surrounds all the physical, but it's not physical, it just permeates. And the Maiar are beings solely of the unseen world. They're literally biblical angels. And if you ever go look at the Catholic Church, what are the powers of angels? It'll say angel are spiritual beings, but they have the power to read all minds, to possess people at will, to form a body at will of any shape or something, and so forth. And those are the powers basically the Ainur have, the Valar and the Maiar, right? And so now why am I explaining this, right? So there's basically two types of supernatural power in Tolkien, and he wouldn't use the word supernatural. I'm trying to explain to the audience, right? There's the powers of the unseen world, which are the spiritual ability to mold reality, to keep it simple, right? And then there's magic, which is something Sauron, as Galadriel states, magic is something Sauron created to fool the lesser races, okay? Meaning those who weren't elves, who knew the powers of the unseen world. Okay? Now, the children of Yuvatar, the elves and the men, the elves were born with an ability to tap the unseen world, but they're created by Yuvatar for that reason, right? But the men have no ability at all to tap the unseen world that's built into them, okay? So, but the elves had to be taught by the Valar to do it, and the Maiar, they were taught that, right? Now, to give men that sort of powers, those powers have to be imbued upon them by someone who has a power of the unseen world, or by something like, I don't know, a ring of power, right? So that's how men get those abilities, right? And if you don't get that, then men could also use Sauron's evil magic. And remember, Jacob, in the Bible, how magic is described as something you shouldn't do because it's evil? Simon Magus and all that. Yeah. So meaning magic itself, like you should use the powers of God, the power of the spiritual world. You should pray for stuff, pray for angels, that sort of thing. Like those are the powers that are meant to be used in the supernatural sense in the Bible, or Catholicism, whatever. Not magic, which is something else. That's how Tolkien structured that to be biblically compliant. And so, why am I going through all this, right? So Sauron is a spiritual being. He's a being of spirit. He's an Ainur. He's the most powerful of the Maiar, right? And when you kill him, when you destroy his body, he could. Oh well, before he started weakening himself, he could form a new one at will. He's actually one of, if not the greatest shape changer among all of the Valar and the Maiar that are in Middle Earth, on Earth, Arda, right? And so his powers are spiritual. That's the first thing I want to get to here, right? And his physical form is secondary. And to give an example of that, spoilers for the book written 50 years ago, right? When after Sauron basically corrupts Numenor and then causes them to be destroyed by Eru, his body is destroyed, but his spirit just picks up the ring and goes back to Middle-earth, and he makes a new body, but Eru limits him to, he can no longer make a fair and pleasing form. He has to look ugly now, okay? And so so remember, that reason I mentioned that for a particular instance, right? He, in physical form, in spiritual form, he just goes back and makes a new body. So now they don't have access to that in Rings of Prime because that's in the lore that's not in what they have, right? So they have to make up a new way to explain Sauron, right? So what do? They make him into like a Lovecraftian goo monster.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Now, so a thing tied to Earth that consumes like other living things, like the thing from another world, basically, right? Now, that inherently conflicts with the way Tolkien created the Maiar as beings of spirit who can manifest bodies, and how Sauron, like in Tolkien, the word the shadow comes up all the time. Well, the shadow with the capital S is Sauron's presence in the unseen world, and you could feel it around you. Like, I mean, I try to keep away from like real life supernatural creepiness or whatever. But you ever know when you go someplace, like everyone's had some sort of encounter that they would describe as supernatural, even whether it is or not. When you go someplace, you get this creepy feeling type of thing, and whenever that is what Sauron's shadow feels like. If you're near him, you feel that creepy feeling. And the one thing Gandalf was doing at the end of The Lord of the Rings, his main thing was he was preventing Sauron from spreading his shadow across the entirety of Middle Earth. He was blocking it. That was actually the main thing he was doing, right? Because he had been empowered when he had been made more powerful as Gandalf the White, powerful enough to resist that, Not that he could defeat Sauron. Sauron would wreck him. But anyway, and that's what the Elven Rings actually do in the books. They're preservative and enforcement, so that they prevented the shadow of Melkor and Sauron from corrupting the last places the elves were living. So those places like Lothlorien, Rivendell, and the Grey Haven, where Círdan had his ring, those resemble Middle Earth in the first age before it was corrupted by Melkor and then Sauron, right? So that's what the Elven Rings are, preservative, right? And that's another thing I'll get back to. So let's finish Sauron. So they create this Sauron as a Lovecraftian goo monster who like eats people or whatever, and that's in stark contrast to like any like it's not even like it's not even like instead of going with the Fea, the spiritual route of power and his corruption, they go entirely physical. Like he's a disease. You know what I mean? Like he's
Yeah.
and that inherently conflicts with the moral and ethical messaging Tolkien was given. And then to the rings, it's like the Elven rings, for example. And I mentioned that the Silmarils would burn them. So if that was actually Silmaril energy, they would be burning from having those evil thoughts with those rings. But that being said, the 3 Elven rings were never touched by Sauron. They were only made with the ring lore. Thus, they were not corrupt at all. But because they were his ring lore, he could control and he could attempt to control anyone who had those rings on. The elves could resist that and take them off fast enough. That's the reason he wanted them. He didn't want the elves to have them. He had no plans to control the elves. That's a whole separate thing. But the rings as structured in the show are completely like spiritually, tonally opposite of how Tolkien made the rings in the books. They just spit in the face of his writings again. And I realized that after I got disgusted with the Sauron goo monster, and I thought about why does that offend me so much? And that's when I came to realize why this show is truly offensive. Now, when I do my videos, I will start mentioning that like why it's so offensive, because so when I ended 6:15, I just ranted for 25 minutes. Maybe, you guys might have a hint that I don't like this show. Maybe, just maybe I don't.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
But okay, so my rant is over. Jacob, what you got coming up?
Well, tomorrow night is my game night, and we'll be playing Horror on the Orient Express. That'll be looking forward to it. And Tuesday, I'm doing Curse of the Black Pearl on my show, and then the thing we've all been waiting for on the 12th, the Fifth Element on Roman's channel.
Yeah, I don't know why he doesn't like that movie.
I don't know
even if
either.
you don't like love it, I mean, you watch Mila Jovovich running around and just be happy. You know what I mean? But But anyway, so we got that coming up. What do I have coming up? So I will be doing, I'll definitely be doing like a 10-minute live stream, maybe in about half an hour, to do my picks for AEW's All Out wrestling event tomorrow. It'll be just a quick live stream, nothing, whatever. I have next week's Friday Fandemonium. Next week on Wednesday night's Overbooked, which is a wrestling show Joker Voice and I are on. We'll be pre-booking our version of the Female Royal Rumble that's coming up in January. Roman show. Okay. I should be on Jacob's show stream tomorrow. I got to make my character up tonight. I got to finally get around to that. I finally got all the link working in Discord and everything. I'll start reading through that in a bit. And then this week I posted the 2 little golden books for the last couple of weeks. And I posted my reviews of AEW's All in London pay-per-view and the WWE Bash in Berlin pay-per-view. Those are up. We're working on the Ring to Prime stuff. This week on the questionnaires, they'll probably post Sunday, will be the questionnaire, which is 3 of us from the White Cloaks on our little side project channel that we'll be doing a live watch and talking about Ring to Prime for episode 4.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of what and my Sharp Season 3 episode 2 review went up earlier this week as well. So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so I want to get to the next episode of Sharp, but I want to do Hornblower first. And then, so in theory, Rings of Prime episodes 1 and 2, the views for that. Sharp and Hornblower episodes over the next week or 2. And another little Golden Boy episode we posted on my end of the content. So that's it for me.
Cool.
So with that being said, you all have a great weekend, and we are out of here.
Bye.